You're the second owner of a 1936 Ford.
Yeah. Had an opportunity to go work for Jack Roush and be the guy to start his NASCAR team.
If you enjoy our YouTube videos and have been wondering how you can help support their creation, consider joining the Hagerty Drivers Club, which includes a subscription to Hagerty Magazine, unlimited access to our valuation tool, exclusive offers and rewards with reputable brands in the automotive industry, 24/7 roadside assistance with flatbed towing, early access and VIP perks to select Hagerty member events, and unlimited classified listings with no additional fees. You can find the link in the description below. One of the benefits of doing Barn Find Hunter episodes near where I live is that I get to connect with old friends like Tony Price. I moved here in the mid-'80s to get involved in NASCAR at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And Tony was on Bobby Allison's team? Davey Allison's team. For Robert Yates. You worked Robert Yates. Yeah. So Tony is an old Ford guy, and I was an old Ford guy, and somehow we connected in the garage area. And so we've been friends for 35 years.
Yeah.
So I'm now coming to your home. Thanks for inviting me here, man.
More than welcome, anytime, Tom.
So what brought you here to the States?
Race cars.
Race cars?
Race cars. So I left New Zealand at 20-year-old. I moved to Australia and I started building race engines with another guy from New Zealand, who was a couple years older than I was. And I got to meet a lot of American racers down there that went down there to race. Notably, a guy's passed on here, Gene Welch from Orangevale, California, and he took 4-car teams down there each year running late models. They'd run one pavement track, same cars on dirt. And I befriended many of these guys because I wouldn't just help with their engines, I would help them at the racetrack, and sometimes we'd race when they were there 2 to 3 nights a week. And they always said, oh, if you're gonna ever come over to the States, come and see us. So one day, I always bought and sold cars and motorcycles. One day I thought, well, if I sell these motorcycles, sell these cars, I got enough money to go to the States for 6 months. Wow. And the first year I was here, I built guys dirt late model engines and cars, and I lived at their house where their shop was, and that was actually Gene Welch, and his son Mark drove. And we won 26 out of 31 races all over the West Coast the first year I was here. So through that, I got to know a man by the name of Tom Hamilton that owns the original stock car products in Los Angeles. He was always telling me, look, if you want to make money in racing, you need to go back to NASCAR. And he got me hooked up with Gary Nelson at Dyguard.
There you go.
Put me on a project up in Welcome, North Carolina, before Richard Childress was in Welcome, and Greg Sachs had rented
who won the
shop.
Firecracker 400.
I prepared that car. Almost single-handedly under the direction of Gary and Robert, and in a Ford engineer by the name of Paul Gilton.
I remember Paul.
And so I had some good teachers. That was the first stock car I'd ever seen, and it was pretty antiquated compared to my dirt late models that I've been racing. Had an opportunity to go work for Jack Roush and be the guy to start his NASCAR team. So this is early '86.
That was in Liberty, North Carolina.
No, it was nowhere. It was still in Detroit. He hadn't started it. And I was the first guy he was hiring to start it. He flew me up there, interviewed me, and we put a deal together. But he wasn't ready financially, so he had me working on his road race cars. And then we were actually back in Jack's shop in Detroit, and Robert Yates called me. This is before cell phones, so Robert called me, and he says, hey, I got a proposition for you. He says, why don't you come with me to Rainier Lundy Racing? We're going to run 4 races with Cale Yarborough. This is the latter part of '86, and we're going to run Davey Allison for Rookie of the Year, and you run the whole car side of it, crew chief, the full bit, and I run the engine side of it. Wow. That was early. I still remember the rough times, about 9 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday morning. I drove back on Thursday in my old truck and worked in Robert's engine shop out by the racetrack there, next to Daryl's old bush shop there. I worked there on a Friday and did some engine stuff for a few weeks until we finally got to work in with Waddell and his guys were still there. They still had one race left to do with Cale.
So through all that, you never lost your love of old Ford?
Never lost my love of old Fords.
I want to take a moment and thank today's sponsor, Consumer Cellular. Consumer Cellular delivers premium nationwide wireless coverage for up to half of what the largest carriers charge. Has award-winning 100% US-based customer support. If you need help or want to make the easy switch, you can call and talk to a real live person, and they'll talk to you for as long as you need help. They have the latest phones, but if you want to keep the phone and number you've already got, that's fine too. There's no contract, you pay nothing up front, and activation is free. Be sure to click the link in the description below. Where was this car built?
This would have been built in Canada and shipped to New Zealand.
Is this right-hand drive?
It's right-hand drive.
So, New Zealand Fords were built in Canada?
Yeah. Now, they were actually shipped to New Zealand at some point in 36 in what they called drop-down form. I don't know what that was, and then they finished assembling them there.
Yeah, it was knocked down, and they were sold, and the components had to be put together.
Yeah, there's a few little differences to an American one. They had a half-year engine in 36 with insert bearings. I'm actually taking one apart there. That's a half-year engine. The American engine, you can't tell from the outside if it's an LB with insert main bearings. But the engine in this car, you can. It's got a hole in a casting. All the Canadian engines have it, which got shipped to Australia also. So
how long have you had this car?
73.
73, so 50 years.
Yeah.
What'd you pay for it?
$150. And I had to get a warrant of fitness. Been sitting in the barn for years. I had to put shackles. I made them. Couldn't buy anything at that time. Rebushed the kingpins. That was about it.
And did you drive it?
Yeah, I drove it. Drove it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So how long has it been in the States?
About 18 years.
What did it cost to ship, by the way? I'm curious.
About the container. I had to get a container, of course. It was about $5,000 roughly American.
That's a lot of money. Ooh.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Especially when I give $150 for it. And the car's never really been restored. I say that. My dad never painted anything in his life. The paint was gone of it. He painted outside his garage. The chrome was shot, so we re-chromed it. This Pines trim on it. Very rare dealer installed accessory. This was not on it.
Right.
But I seen it on a hot rod magazine when I bought this car when I was 17, a car with it on. And I said, man, I have to have that. I still have that hot rod magazine, by the way. I had to have it, and I searched forever to find it, and finally got it. And when the car got here, I put it on. I didn't drill any holes. It didn't have the brackets with it, but I adapted it all without drilling holes. And
isn't that cool? So are these all old Fords in here?
yeah, all Fords.
Okay, so what do you got? A four-door convertible here?
I got to show you this first.
Okay.
Edsel Ford autographed the glove box door.
Edsel Ford.
Edsel Ford. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, he sat in it.
Where was this? Charlotte?
Yeah, in Charlotte, at one of Jack's shops. And the little badge on the dash, that's Ashburton Motors that sold it brand new. I'm only the second owner. Dad's worked on this car when he was serving his apprenticeship at Ashburton Motors.
You're the second owner of a 1936 Ford.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. This book, that's been in the glove box ever since I got the car. I bought this Hot Rod magazine, and it's been in there ever since.
Man.
So
a four-door convertible.
Convertible sedan.
Convertible
Quite
sedan.
a rare trunk back, half year only again. There's only 118 of these known left to exist. There's a guy, Hamtown Al, in Norfolk, Virginia, or Smithfield, Virginia, that's everyone in the world he can find, he's documented. Because he's trying to figure where in 36 they switched to that trunk back. So,
a trunk back. I mean, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where'd the spare tire go?
Inside. It's all wooden shelf inside.
I got it. Okay.
It's a very, very solid car.
So this has roll-up windows. I mean, a Phaeton would have had snap-in side curtains.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a rare car. So how long have you had this?
4 years, I think. It had been hidden away for 30 years, and I found it in Lexington, North Carolina.
Nice find.
Yeah. So I'm going to make it a driver.
Cool. Cool. And so this truck, what year is that?
36.
36.
Yeah, I've had that about 6 years. That come out of Pickens, South Carolina, from an estate. Very, very solid truck. Hopefully by the end of the year, that's going to be my shop truck. I'm not going to do anything cosmetically to it, but it's going to be my
So you're
truck.
recently retired? How long ago did you retire?
1 year ago.
1 year ago.
1 year
and so
ago.
you retired from
Can
who?
we stop? Can we stop? I'm not retired. I just repurposed my life. Yeah.
So who did you work for most recently?
The last 20 years I worked for Jack Roush and did everything from, gosh, crew chief, team manager. The last 15 years probably I was assembly shop manager over the assembly from pit stop cars to show cars to the Xfinity Nationwide and then the Cup cars in the last several years, many years.
So that Model A, I heard you say it's not your car?
That is not my car. That's a friend of mine here in Charlotte. It's an old Model A hot rod from probably the 60s, I'm guessing. It's got your old cracked lacquer paint job. It's got a 4-cylinder B engine and transmission with a genuine Miller overhead valve conversion and an Aaron Lovelace blower on it.
Here's a supercharger worked off the crankshaft. The carburetor goes on top of the supercharger.
Yes.
So there's no way you can have a hood on here.
No, that's another project I'm working on. He's got a very rare Winfield carburetor that I'm having to adapt to it and put throttle linkage on it. So
that's great. Wow. So I see 2 coupes back here. What are they?
So we got I really didn't know you guys were coming in. All right, to organize a little better, but it's all good. So this is a 41 Mercury coupe, another very solid car. I have every last piece for it, and including a lot of new old stock parts.
And these are your cars?
Yeah, everything in here except for that Roadster is mine.
So what's your priority of getting cars on the road?
So my 36 owned all those years. I've actually got the engine. It'll get assembled this week. So I want to get that so I can back enjoy it. The Model A is the next project because that's a customer car. And then after that, the 36 pickup as a shop truck, and then the 41 Mercury, I'm going to sell it. I have to downsize. I don't have enough room. I don't need this many cars at this point in my life. And then the convertible sedan after that.
So I just want to go back in time a little bit. Let me get by you here. In 1983, I got my first job in NASCAR. And it was working doing public relations for the Ingersoll-Rand National Pit Crew Championship on the NASCAR circuit. And I stuck this decal on this toolbox in 1983. And the reason we did that was at the time, toolboxes were on pit lane. And when these boxes were opened, the television cameras would see them. When a car came for a pit stop, Ingersoll-Rand would be in the background, like they'd get free exposure. Now, of course, they have these big rigs with umbrellas and chairs up there and all that stuff. But this is going back to the old days. That's 40 years ago I put that on.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah, that's the box. Bobby won the championship in '83 with that box. Yeah.
Wow.
God.
Very cool. So are those your motorcycles?
Yes.
So people that watch this show like motorcycles. Would you show us what's going on there?
So what we got here, this is 48 Panhead Harley Davidson. Last year of the Springer front end, 1 year Springer only because it has a neck lock, and first year of the Panhead. This is a 59 Harley Davidson. Both these I have every last piece for them, boxes and new old stock parts. I've had these for a long time. Look, quite a rare motorcycle here is a 49 Indian Scout, Indian Vertical, the only American-made vertical twin motorcycle. 40 minutes away is the guru of these, Pete Sink and Wally Brown from Gibbs Racing. They're the gurus on this, and Wally's grandfather actually worked in the factory and was part of this motorcycle. So I went to a seminar, so this is going to get, I'm not restoring it, I'm going to get it running and make it look good.
So what do you got in the barn back there?
Yeah, we got more junk down in the barn. Down here, hidden in behind that stuff, is the little Y model Ford.
A Y model Ford.
It's a little English car. They made them in several factories. They first made them in 32. And they made them through to 36 with a few subtle changes. Edsel Ford was over there in the early 30s and seen this car and came back and had his designers copy this car in a larger form with a V8. This has, or come with, an 8 horsepower 4-cylinder engine. I have the engine and the transmission. I have most pieces for this car. As you see, it's surface rusted, but it's actually quite solid. These bodies were wood framed, so of course that will need taken care of.
Is your desire to restore this, or?
I think it's too far gone to restore.
Okay.
So
Wouldn't that be cool with a V860 in it?
Exactly. A high boy, even though it's got really, really nice fenders, all the parts are inside. This car has really nice fenders. It's got a decent grille. I'll dig that out in a minute. But I think this car would be awesome as a fenderless high boy with a tricked out V860 in it.
Oh, that'd be great. Do you remember what you paid for this?
$200.
And was it disassembled or it was all together?
It was together, but they had to take it apart to get it in the container to make room.
Yep.
This car was in the container on its way over here. I'm at the Charlotte Speedway at the Auto Fair, and I find a real tail pan for a Y model Ford. The guy wanted $90 for it, and I'm like, where in the world? And it's in here. It's in really nice condition. Where in the world would you find one of these if you needed it? And I told him I'd give him $50 for it. He wouldn't take it, and I walked off. I haven't even seen this car. I don't even know if it needs a tail pan or what kind of shape, but I went back and gave him his $90 for it.
Wow.
But we'll see how we do in the next year with what I've got going on, and in a year's time I might be ready for a something a little different, a challenging project.
So let's see, you said you were that Mercury Coupe you would sell, so I'm just wondering, if somebody watched this show, you'd sell the Mercury Coupe, what would you ask for that, do you know?
I'd probably sell it all for $12,000 with all the new old stock parts. Now that includes new old stock trim pieces I have, some really rare parts I have.
Cool. And engine, transmission.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
So we're in suburban Charlotte here, you know, there's cars and trucks going by here, and never would you realize that you'd find something as rare in the States as a Y-type Ford. Just amazing. So, but leave it to Tony, who's shipping this stuff around the world, bringing things in, sending it out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And you know what, if you're driving down a road like this, just because it's suburbia doesn't mean there's not a barn in the backyard with cool stuff inside it. Happy hunting.